Well, hello there everybody, my name is Mikey, and today we're going to be drawing a nice, quick, simple, easy picture of Killua from Hunter x Hunter. Killua Zoldyck, I think, or something like that. It's got a very weird family surname. Go ahead and start off by drawing a great big circle in the middle of the page. We are going to be drawing Killua in his Godspeed form, where he's got that lightning special ability, and that means we're going to get a nice big close-up of his face with all of his hair in that electric atmosphere. Now, once you've got your big circle in place, I've got it a little bit longer than I have wide. Just bring a line straight down off an angle, that's going to be the slight tilt of his head, and make that line come down around about 1/4 to 1/3 of the height of Killua's circle face. And then just come down and slant in from the edge of the circle on one side, slant in from the edge of the circle on the other side, and we're really just slanting to about halfway, and then just bring that line back in towards the middle where we've got the chin here and here. Beautiful rough shapes we use to get everything in place. Now, where we've got the edges of the circle meeting the edges of the cheek line, we imagine this is going to be the line at which we'll have the eye level. This is because the head's going to be tilted ever so slightly back, and it moves all of the features up ever so slightly. But before we worry about that, let's just get some other basic shapes in. Because the head's tilting back with Killua, we're going to have a nice long neck, maybe about 2/3 of the way down this cheek line. It's just going to drop off like so, and then same on this side, 2/3 back in this instance. And then we can just kind of pretend that there's going to be the top around about there. And in fact, what we'll do is just slant straight off here from the neckline, go all the way down about 2 head whips. If you imagine that this is tucked right over here and 2 circles are next to each other, that's about how far wide we're going to go. We're just going to drop off some shoulder shapes there and then do the same down on this side here. That's roughly how we're going to map out this space. Now, Killua's top is all over the place because of his electric powers. So what we can do is we can roughly map out maybe just a little bit of an arc of a space around about here, and the top's going to be all over the place there. So the shoulder areas are actually going to shoot up and float around in the wind, something like this. So I'm just going to imagine he's got his tank top on, and then just imagine these shoulder flaps maybe just floating up. So we're going to get a material curve going on that kind of goes down and up. If you imagine a little lump shape like that, and then goes back down like so. And then we're just going to give it some thickness. We're just going to bring it in like that. That's one edge. And then on the other as well, it's going to be shooting up like this, maybe coming down like so. And then there's going to be all these folds and flaps because it's all whipping around in the electric current in the atmosphere that's created by his Nen technique, I believe. So we get that down there. Maybe we'll have like some fold lines here and then tuck it out. And because there's an unusual light source coming from Killua himself, we have some unusual shadow play, but we'll worry about that in just a moment. Just going to bring this neckline into becoming that shoulder, and the same on this side. I think this material is going to probably come all the way around in like so. Okay, great. So let's go back to Killua's face then. Now, we know where the eye level is. We've just talked about that. We are going to mark off away from the edge ever so slightly on either side to bring the eyes in. And again, we're going to probably have a tiny bit of distance between here. Not quite an entire eye length apart, because Killua has quite large eyes. But we're going to use this to basically create a bit of a rectangle eye shape. If you imagine that there's a very rough rectangle there and there, we're going to have some kind of eye slits but are quite wide. So we're going to have it curve up from the center as usual. Almost imagine that the brow line is going to be shooting straight up in a minute with the eyebrows. And then we're going to just bring it back and down on this side. And then we're going to shoot down on this side, just so it's kind of irregularly symmetrical. And then bring it up and into the edge like that. So then we're going to do a very similar thing on this side as well. Just going to cut up and in. Whoops. Throwing my pencil, trick shot. Bring it out like so. Then on this side, along the bottom, before it cuts up and back in again. And with Killua, he's got these outer eyelash areas that kind of come up around about there. They shoot out. He's going to have a pretty thick eyelash hood along the top. Something like that. And then he's going to have another fairly heavy line just below there. And it's going to be the same on this side. It's going to be thick and heavy right along the top. It's going to be quite a thick line. It shoots out for the edges of the eyelash on the right here. Make that nice and heavy. And then with his eyes, because he's looking a little bit down towards us, it's probably going to be slightly off-centered to the right, like so. Just seeing just about half the circle of the eye. And then very similar on this side as well. Just seeing about half a circle. Again, it's brushing the top maybe of the eyelash, of the eyelid, but not all the way open. Something like that. And then in the middle, we'll have another fairly large pupil. Just one here. Maybe another one here. And then we'll have kind of maybe a spot of light that comes in around about that side. Maybe a glow here. And then we'll just mimic it there. Spot of light and another glow. And then we'll come back to that in just a moment. So let's get some eyebrows in. Now they follow this line I was talking about a minute ago. On male characters, getting really heavy, deep eyebrow lines in can really convey a lot of motion. So this is going to shoot right up. And I'm using this halfway line, but I've got the circle itself to kind of guide how far up I'm going to go there. It's pretty much just a very thin line itself for his eyebrows. And then we're going to go and do the same on this side as well. Just bring it up and round. Like so. There will be a line in here somewhere for the lid of the eye. It's going to be fairly low down, around about there. And there'll be a similar thing going on around about here. And a lot of this shape will be defined by some odd light play as well. Just tuck it in there and there. And with his nose, we're going to have fairly high up as well. Everything's really moving up the page. So I'm going to keep it well inside of this circle. And I'm going to measure from about where the middle of the eyes are. I'm going to go roughly halfway. This will be roughly where I keep the nose element. So slightly off to the left, we'll have the up part, the underside of the nose shooting up. And then it hooks almost completely flat before it then curves up like so. And then actually hooks off to the left towards the eyebrow. If you imagine this line coming all the way down towards the hook and then picking up the nose. Now, the mouth as well, it's all moving up the page. So I'm going to use this bottom edge of the circle to actually dictate that area. And it's going to be very small, very unimpressed. So just a slight dip in the middle and then down on the edges like so. Just like that, really. Up there and down. And then we'll have maybe a little bit of shadow round about here. This is going to be a shadow zone, just a little smoothed triangle. There's going to be shadow zone on the upper lip as well. And then we've got all the shadow zone up around the left edge of the nose. If you imagine just a block shape that's going to come in and then come up like that. And we're going to have some shadow going around the top as well. It's very underlit for a light source. So that means the shadows are going to play around the top. They're going to do a similar thing around the cheeks. So if we come and follow the eye line, but just ever so slightly below, and then just create a smooth, rounded zone here. It's going to be cheek shadow. And then very similar on this side, follow this eye line along. And then we're just going to have a smoothish, triangle-ish shadow shape here. Brilliant. Now, because we're going to just worry about that when we're doing our shading and colouring, these won't be such strong shapes, but they will help. And then where we've got this lid shape here, I want you just to bring that back into a rough curve like so. And then do a very similar thing on this side as well. A rough curve in and out. All that area is going to be in shadow. And then coming from the topper edge of the eyebrow, we're just going to create a dip that follows the eyebrow line, but further back up, all the way down here. Dips down, curves all the way back, and then meets up with this eyebrow as well. These are all the areas of shadow we're going to be having on Killua. Now, a lot of it we're not going to notice. We've even got some ears which we're going to fit in. They're going to be a bit lower because the head's tilted back. So I'm probably going to use this halfway point to be the top of an ear shape, round about here, and same here. But the chances are we're not really going to see these ears much at all, because the real mission when it comes to this picture is going to be Killua's hair. It's going to be all over the place. So in order to make sure we've got the weight of his hair even on either side, I like to imagine a very rough guiding arc. I'm going to start at chin level from this neckline, and I'm just going to create a bit of an imaginary circle, so to speak, but just curves up like so. And this will be a rough guiding limit for the points of the hair. I'm going to do the same on this side. It's just going to curve up and around. Try to follow the shape of the head itself, so it's going to probably go right off the page around about there. And that's going to help me put out all the shooting areas and points of Killua's hair. So it comes off in these big massive spikes. So I'm just going to start to create all these spikes here. And with the Godspeed technique, his hair isn't a series of smooth points as it is normally. It gets to be much more all over the place, a kind of different texture, really far more jagged. So you can either try to copy this exactly if you want to, if you've got a really good eye for it, or you can just create all sorts of slightly jagged, lightning-ish shapes yourself. Just get it right up and in, right up and out into lots of points. But really, make sure that all the points are roughly going to follow along this curve, just so that it's got that right kind of weight about it. So maybe off down there, back and in, shooting off kind of here, and then spikes up there, then comes back in. Maybe there's another spike here, and then I think there's probably going to be a really big spike actually that shoots off around the edge there. And it's not going to be a smooth hairline, it's going to be kind of jagged and up, and then back and in, and then up and out again, like so. So you can have a lot of fun with this. Just imagine the shape of lightning and electricity, and sometimes keep a few of the hair points just a little bit jagged. In fact, we'll do a similar thing all the way up on this side on the right, and we're going to really put another layer of spiky hair around the front as well, and that's how you get the different levels of Killua's hair. So let's come up and in, and again, just having any kind of spiky, jagged shapes that we might want to have, using this guiding circle as a very rough line and indicator for where we're going to be having all of the hair pieces. Just up and along like so, and then maybe things get a bit bigger and probably shoot right off around about there. Maybe this chunk's going to come back in on this side but be really jagged and lightningy like so. Maybe there's another chunk coming off there. More hair, of course, shooting up and off of the page. So let's bring that into that other circle then. Now we're going to start about where we've got our halfway point of a circle, another halfway up there. And we can imagine a lot of the hair coming down and falling from there. Usually it falls very low over Killua's face, but because it's rising up with the static electricity of his technique, it means that it's just going to actually float up a little bit above the eye level. So I'm just going to bring maybe a strand of hair in that comes like so, just up and in, like that. And then maybe we're going to have more strands that come up away and just come off to the side of the face and really shoot out over the side. So this is where we're going to get this second hair layer in. I'm going to start drawing hair that shoots off round the side to various degrees. Again, keeping it spiky instead of curvy, really kind of showing it's that Godspeed technique, just really adding a lightning layer to everything. And so this inside edge of hair really gives the whole thing a bit of layer and weight. I'm going to have a bit of hair that comes down and covers over the ear as well, like so. Maybe spike off there, maybe make it part of this strand here, why not? And then up and in like so. Lovely. That means I just need a little bit of earlobe up there and a little bit of ear. Excellent. Just going to bring this curve in ever so slightly as the cheek, and then round out ever so slightly as the jawline bone, and then just come down here and just curve ever so slightly to be the chin. And then similar on this side, I'm going to just let it round just a touch there, and then let it smooth up to the side as we come down on this side. So there's a big kind of web of hair here. It kind of comes down, has a little notch of hair that shoots off here, so we're just going to indicate that by a bit of a shape that comes out of the main tendril of hair, and then it really just curves off and up instead, again following similar to the brow line, but maybe just shooting down a bit there, splitting in a very electric spiky way up to the right, and we're just going to again follow that as a form down. Doesn't have to be perfect, just needs to get the point across really, that his hair is kind of really static and full of electricity now, and he's basically up to wild high-speed combat techniques. Well, excuse me everybody, I do actually have I'm recovering from a cold, so every now and again my voice gets just a little bit husky, but there we go, much better. And maybe down like that, and again we're going to be having like a center point around about here, so there'll be all sorts of hairlines and shadow. It just shows that more stuff is happening. There's more layer, more texture kind of spiking in. Maybe up here there's lots of shadow areas that will come into play. And this front layer of hair is probably going to spike off and shoot up there as well. Certainly going to be shooting off around here. There's certainly going to be bits of hair coming down over this ear on this side. So maybe 1, 2, 3 big spiky bits there. And the hair over here is going to be coming right off as well. Maybe actually falling down on that side before coming back up and being more jagged, spiky areas of hair. They're just going to play up there like so, up there, and then back along here. Excellent. So we've got that rough idea in. There will be another layer of shadow under the chin, around about here. And where this neckline comes back in, I'm just going to follow this kind of shape of material. I'm just going to wear a bit more and make it even more dramatic. Up and down, floating in like so, back and around. So that here we've got the skin. I'm just going to curve off that shoulder. Lovely. Get some edge in there. Curve off this line. Curve off that shoulder as well. And let the material really do all the talking. There'll be lots of shadow there. There'll be shadow up around the top. So again, I'm just following this area and roughly mapping in all these rough folds and spaces. Another shadow line is going to drop off of there. And the whole top area is going to be in shadow because the whole front is being lit up by the crackling of electricity of his technique. So that means we'll also probably have lots of shadow around about here, cast by the top itself where it comes back in. And then we've roughly basically mapped out everything we need. Now, just to add another touch on there, once we've got it all in frame, we get to pop in maybe just some really big arcs of electricity to really show off his powerful technique. So again, any way you really want it to kind of balance things, I'm just going to shoot it off around here, have it shoot off over to the right and then out and spike off a bit there. And really what I'm using is just this most common image that I could find on Google image searches for Killua doing this technique. And it involves lots of sparks of electricity which really add this extra element to the image. And I'm being really loose, I'm being really short and sharp with the strokes. Really just letting my hand do almost whatever it wants. We'll have a bit of electricity that falls right over this eye line here, comes all the way in, and then just shoots off and out to the right as well. And then maybe as well up this side, just behind him, it's going to be a couple crackles more of electricity just coming up, and then flaring off around about here, where it's just dissipating. Great! So, what I'm going to do then, now that we've roughed out the pencil shapes for our simple Killua, is I'm going to ink it up, and I'll see you guys right at the end. And there you have it, everybody. A nice, quick, simple, easy picture of Killua in his Godspeed mode. Now, I'm probably just going to drop this into a very bluish, purple and white themed image. Most of the hair will be white. Most of the electricity will be white. Kind of a grey top and maybe a slightly bluish tinted white fleshy skin to his face. Obviously, the eyes will be in blue as well. And I'll probably add a little bit of glow to everything in Photoshop too. But otherwise, I hope you guys found this useful. Let me know in the comments what other characters you want to see next time around. Click like, click subscribe, and stick around for more fun. See you later, guys. Goodbye.